I wouldn't be surprised if Lee, I've got no inside information, if Lee had said something that shut him up and maybe pissed him off, or they shut the captain up. So they'd all be all like that all game, saying, I guarantee that his players, Nuno's players, Wolves players, were saying far worse stuff to those match officials than Lee would have to them. But as soon as Lee come back and said something, that's outrageous, I'm going to report you. They'll never ever report their own players. Like you're seeing, was it Grealish? Everyone heard it on the telly, a big F off.
Yeah, to the assistant.
Everyone heard it. Not a peep from the FA about, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Not a peep. Hello and welcome to the Final Whistle podcast, where we've been missing for it since before Christmas. Main reason is the main man, Anthony, had two things happen in his life. One was he moved home to his beautiful new home in the holy lands of Liverpool, and he became a father to a beautiful baby girl.
Yeah, that's right. Alara Joy Canavan, born on the 27th of November. And I haven't slept since.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I did literally none of the work. It was all Danny, my wife. She was born via cesarean. So as a little story there, she was upside down in a kind of V shape. So instead of the head being down, she was butt down like that.
You're not the baby, not your wife.
Well, that's how we got into this mess in the first place.
That's your birth we're talking about here.
So anyway, these three kind of Soviet shot putter-esque midwives came in to try and manipulate the baby around. Didn't happen. That was on the 26th. So on the 27th, it was an emergency cesarean. And Danny absolutely smashed it. Alara was born. I had to leave them for 2 days in the hospital, which was absolutely heartbreaking because of COVID. I was there for the delivery. I was there for about an hour after the delivery, and then that was it. I didn't see them for 2 days, except on like Facebook chat and stuff like that. It's horrible way for my first child to be kind of brought into the world. It was just her and Danny. Obviously, Danny having just gone through the cesarean. But no, like I say, we're in our new home now in Prescott in Liverpool, which is great. And everyone's settled in. So all is good. But having said that, now that I have a daughter, I'm very aware to feminism and the way that ladies are treated in this world. And I want to touch upon the very recent situation that happened on Twitter, on social media, with Leeds United having not set up that presenter. What was the girl's name?
Carney.
Yeah. Who said that Leeds only got promoted last season because COVID gave them a break and they were energised for that final push in the season. And they got promoted thanks to a little bit of help from COVID. Leeds United's Twitter, official Twitter, kind of took a video clip of her saying that.
And credit to them. My only concern would be is, will they blow up at the end of the season? We saw that the last couple of seasons, and I actually think they got promoted because of COVID in terms of it gave them a bit of respite. I don't know whether they would have got up if they didn't have that break. So,
and retweeted it going, I can't remember what it was. It was basically going, really, really, Karen. And all of their fans just, I think, overreacted. They jumped on her point, whether it was valid or not, whether you agree with it or not. The abuse, the vile sort of reaction of that fan base was disgusting. I mean, we're talking death threats, we're talking rape threats. It was that level of obscene. And whilst that was really bad, and it was really bad, it was a horrible reaction, I can't help but think that is exactly what referees get on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever, week in, week out. there are maybe not the official supporters Twitter pages or anything like that, but there are fan groups, fan Twitter pages that have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that maybe won't measure their criticism of a referee. And because they're all supporters of that club, if the Twitter account says this ref was shite, these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that follow that account will jump on that, and this echo chamber forms of the same level of abuse and to the same kind of obscene scale that we saw there. No one stands up for the referee in that situation. The referee has no recourse. So the referee can't see that tweet and go, yeah, come on, I was doing my best out there. I saw it once. I've got one set of eyes, one angle. You probably saw it 10 or 20 times in slow motion from however many different angles. And that is what formed your opinion. I see it in real time. I get one shot at it, and it was my honest opinion, and that's what I gave. Referees don't have the ability to say that in response to any sort of criticism of their performance. The only ones that do, the PGMO, if we're talking about the top referees, they never, I can say, stand up for the referees. They never jump in and say, we've watched the footage back, we fully support 100% this referee giving this decision, whether it's a red card or a penalty or whatever it was. It doesn't have to be a big decision. They can just come out and say, we fully support, we've looked at it, we're the experts in match officials, we back our referees 100%. And a lot of people, a lot of fans say there's no transparency from the PGMO about do they accept from the managers who will criticise them and say they made a mistake? Do the PGMO then say, yeah, you've made a mistake here, we're going to give you a little bit of a bollocking, or your assessment marks are going to come down, that's going to affect you over the course of the season? There's not that transparency from there as well. So having said all that, coming from, that initial tweet by Leeds United and how it impacts referees and match officials, yes, at the very top level, but you see it as well on Twitter at these local levels. Grassroots are doing it as well. Now, I've, as the referee forum, jumped in on a couple of those and pushed it back on the managers and the players, saying, well, surely your players missed a sitter, an open goal, didn't convert a penalty, whatever it was. There's this thing of, this is my club, we do no wrong, we deflect, we accept no responsibility, and we blame the referee, the soft target. And it's happening a lot on social media. And this thing with Karen, it kind of really drove home that we, the referees, have no recourse for that. And there should be some like public support from the bodies that are supposed to support referees, and it just seems to be missing.
Yeah, I agree. I was because I do the Twitter account for F Supports. Everyone knows that. I jumped on it because I think it was one of the colleagues. They had a bit of a speech before the next game, didn't he? Saying how disgraceful it was, and we support Karen and all this, really good. In it together, which was brilliant, and incidentally, I think some of the treatment of her was terrible, and it resulted in Karen having to close the Twitter accounts, which is just sad. It is sad. However, saying that, these people that are saying, "Oh, this is out of order," what they said to Karen, they start the firing gun when they say that referee is a disgrace. He should never have missed that. He's had a shocker. They're the starting guns. And that's exactly what happens with Leeds. Whether everyone thinks she was right or wrong to say what she said, in my opinion, is irrelevant. But what Leeds did, they started the firing gun on the abuse. They had to go. And then it all started, and then it escalates. And if you look on our website, revsupport.co.uk, you'll see a blog. We did a blog about the association of referee abuse, the escalation of it in regards to crime. And there's one in there, epitome Scouser, born in Anfield, council estate, one of the worst, poorest areas in Europe at the time. And car crime was normal around our way. And kids, not saying I did or I didn't, but we'd take the sign off the back of a car, and we used to have them all on the bedroom doors, all these different Fords and everything on there. And then you end up taking the boots and stealing out of the boots, and then you take the door and you open the door and you take the radio, then you end up taking the car. Having a car crash could kill yourself, hurt yourself, or hurt others. Everyone's probably thinking, what's he talking about? In the blog, that's what I talk about. the taking the signs off the back of the car is the social media abuse. The opening the boot and taking the tools out is the stick on the pitch, the threats on the pitch. The taking the radio is the abuse in the bar afterwards or in the car park, and the car crash with the assault on the referee. All starts by not addressing those first instances. That's why we took it on to have a go back at them, and that's why we go back at clubs on social media. And people like Keith Hackett is a good example of what happens. He might say, I haven't really said anything. He starts it. He'll go, John Moss needs to do weight like that knobhead's Guy Beale did and got charged by the FA. That's the starting gun. It isn't necessarily what they say. It's who they are that's saying it, and everyone jumps on it. Before you know it, you get this snowball of abuse, and it becomes horrendous like it did with Karen, and I wish her all the best. But no, I'm with you on that. I just think some of these pundits need to realise that when they're having a go at referees, that's the sort of stick that we get. But we're not famous. We haven't got a TV broadcaster behind us. We might have a phone call, our hotline, or talk to you, Ant, or phone you up, Nathan, and talk about the mental challenges and the mental health issues on this. They never seem to do that. But now it's one of their colleagues. Oh, it's outrageous. But when it's a ref, we're fair game.
Fair game, soft target.
Rather hypocritical, if I'm honest. But there we go.
I just think that, I think that I don't look at a pundit for being black or for being white or for being a man or for being a woman. I look at them on the merits of their abilities, and I like Gary Neville and I like Jamie Carragher, and I don't like certain other pundits. And what I would say to her is, when we're comparing this to a referee who makes a mistake, having seen it once, this is a pundit who has had an opportunity to research properly, to look over previous games, to do proper research and back things up. And I happen to agree with the Leeds United admin team in respect to the fact that they have every right to question some of the things she said. What I think that probably they should have been a little bit more aware of and maybe thought and had a little bit more tact when they've done it is the reaction that it's going to get. They haven't said anything misogynistic, they haven't said anything sexist, but obviously they've created a platform for bile and hate to be spread, and I think that's a regrettable consequence of a perfectly legitimate retort to what she said, which I think was unjust. But obviously my concern and my interest in the whole thing is the impact that it has on the mentality of a person. And I think a lot about obviously the fact that she's had to delete her social media. I've made no secret of the fact that I'm a Newcastle United fan. Newcastle United have a £40 million centre forward who hasn't scored a lot of goals, wears the number 9 shirt, which is an iconic shirt in the history of the club. And when he posts a picture on Instagram, the comments are turned off. That's a really sad reality that he has to turn his comments off so that he can post on social media. And I just think that he doesn't even have Twitter, probably for that very reason, that you can't suspend the comments as easily on there. So I think you have to look at the reality of these people in the public eye who are doing this. And having to take these, because ultimately when you analyse people in the public eye, particularly footballers, they will say, oh, well, social media is a great way to connect with the fans. But when it becomes a vector of hate and bile to be put at these people, you're not going to get anything out of it. And I think we all know what we're going through at the moment with coronavirus. When we go on social media, there's not an awful lot of good news anyway. So imagine being a footballer and having 50, 60, 70,000 people sending abuse. And that's where you have to think about the mental health impact, Again, just touched on it. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and in this pandemic, a lot more people than in a regular year are completing suicide. We're in January, where every year Blue Monday occurs. But this year, we're in the midst of the most prohibitive and restrictive sort of measures upon our freedoms and things like that probably any of us have ever experienced within our lives. So you just got to look at all of that, and you've got to see the impact of what it has on people. And then you add into this Karen going through this situation and Big Joe Linton going through this situation, and you think, how do you deal with that when the world is in that way? There's not a lot of good news about, and when you're trying to connect with people, it's a really negative experience that, if these people lack confidence and they have that, they have maybe some doubts about their ability deep within them, deep-seated, it could be something that really sort of tips them over the edge. They might stop a broadcasting career because of that, or even worse, they might, begin to have a lot of mental challenges such as self-harm and other things which really do take place. And I think a lot of people don't know about these things. So we have to be really, really aware of the impact that it can have on a much deeper level, I think.
What's the answer, though, in terms of you can't change this culture that has... it's been like a very slowly developing train wreck, and it's been happening maybe now for 5 years, where the mentality and the hatred of society in general has been grown. Everyone's getting polarized. You're either on the right or on the left. You can't be in the middle. You've got to pick a side, and that really plays into the tribalism of football. You're either with the team that you support or you're against the team that you support. I support Liverpool, and there's someone I know on Facebook who every single game that Liverpool don't win, it was the referee's fault. And I will always jump in and say, listen, it wasn't the referee's fault. But no matter how I explain that, no matter how many examples I ask for him to provide me about what specifically it was the referee did to kind of cost Liverpool the game, he can't answer that. He's just like, well, if it was Man United, we'd have got a penalty. All this sort of stuff. I've spoken to him in a very reasoned way. I've spoken to him in times quite an aggressive and rude way. There's no way to change that mind once it's made up, because as I've started posting on Twitter, every time a manager or player wants to blame the referee, what they're doing is deflecting, absolving themselves of any responsibility for their part in the result of the game, and they're choosing the softest target possible, the one that can't answer back, the one that don't get supported by the organisation that gives them their fixtures, and also the one that no one really knows the role of a referee. Yeah, everyone knows how to support a football club. Not many people know how to officiate a game, or not many people know how to support someone who's officiating a game. They can't have that empathy towards the person in that role. It just doesn't exist.
Well, I thought they would have learned, or Twitter or social media or whoever would have learned from Caroline Flack.
That is a it's coming up to a year anniversary since she completed suicide, and I just think that, where are we 12 months on? I know we've had a very
What have we learned as a nation, as a species? What an awful predicament that was, and I genuinely, wish Karen Carney all the best, and I think she's a great, brilliant broadcaster. Knows her onions absolutely fantastically well, credible. What she's achieved in the game. A real trailblazer, and I think it's a shame that we had to get to a point where she felt that she had to close it. But she went on quite quickly afterwards. The next or second game that they did is BT Sport, isn't it? Yeah, she was on there, wasn't she? Or was she on Match of the Day or something? And she was really, really good and considered. You could see, she was a bit, awkward, because obviously he's the first public appearance after all that happened to her. But I wish her all the best. Real credible woman, intelligent woman, articulate. Really like her. I think she could learn from what she said. Yeah. And I think Leeds United as a club needs to take more responsibility of the post they're putting out, not regards to what they say, but regards to the consequences of what they say. And we know, as people who look at referee abuse and all the stuff that we get, what happens from one tweet, how it just grows into a monster that, that can be avoidable. When people like Keith Hackett and football clubs are putting out tweets that encourage and actively encourage referee abuse, that further down the road, people just think it's okay to smack a referee.
Just on that point, it absolutely baffles me how people that have been to the very top of their ladder of refereeing, some of them couldn't get higher Some of them went to the very top and now use that platform to almost stick the knife in to the referees that are currently operating. And you mentioned Keith Hackett. He's one of them. He may not directly say the vile, horrible things that other people will, but he definitely likes the touch paper. He'll make a tweet and it will condemn, or some of them can be quite inflammatory or insulting. Yeah,
some can be quite personal. And then you've got someone like him judging a Premier League referee's fitness. Is that when Hackett was a FIFA referee, the fitness test was the equivalent of a grassroots referee now. Probably the lowest level of fitness at any fitness level that the FA offer as a match official. That's what he had to achieve. So there he is, slagging people off at the top level of football, who frankly are probably 3 times as fit as he ever could be.
Yeah, I'll run with that. Lee Mason is one of the people he insulted him. He said, "You don't look, Lee Mason, like someone that can keep up with the game. You don't look athletic at all." And because of that, the players are gonna use that as a target for some, specific abuse. However, if that was the case, you look back, at what point did any of the referees in his era look like the professional footballers of today? They didn't. They didn't, is the answer.
No, so I know we can edit this. At this point, put up a photograph of Lee Mason now and Hackett when he was refereeing, and look at the difference. Hackett would probably say, "Oh, I was big bones," or the camera put on. No, you were nowhere near as fit as our top level of referees. It ain't going to happen. So don't even suggest that you've got any form of credibility by slagging off our current PGMO referees. And I just wish he'll go back into his Jurassic Park Flintstone mob with him, and just go back away. And what footballer who's 74 or whatever our age he is, what footballer in the Premier League would take advice from a 74-year-old?
Well, it'd be like Pele coming in and going, "Yeah, that Messi is a bit shit, isn't he?" Yeah. I could do, if I was playing for Barcelona right now, I'd be smashing him in as well. He's nothing special.
You just laugh at him. And that's what I'll get with him. People can say now to us and say, "Oh, no, he's got to FIFA like he did," and all that, but it's irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. I just don't buy it. Some of the nonsense he comes out with is laughable. If
I had got to the very top, if I'd got to FIFA at any point and then I'm retired, I would be using that platform to encourage as many people, to assist as many people as possible. I wouldn't be using that platform to fan my own ego and to kind of keep others or put others down in the way that a bully does, a schoolyard bully that says, "Oh, you're a bit fat, aren't you?" Well,
I think we've got to give great credit to the likes of Mark Clattenburg, who's an absolutely wonderful referee at Premier League level.
World level.
Well, yeah, but in terms of, we're talking about Premier League referees who've just come down, he's now working really well and really positively with Amazon in terms of being part of Alexa and putting laws of the game into Alexa. He makes a really positive contribution in terms of educating the viewer when Amazon have live games as they have over the festive period. We've got a wonderful opportunity now to see Peter Walton as well, who's also sharing his insight, and he's a really, really great example.
And a damn nice lad too.
Yeah.
Howard Webb in the States doing the same thing. Yeah. That's how it should be done. That's if once you've reached the pinnacle, you've stepped down and you're retired, people are gonna want an audience with you to get to know, to get your opinions, to share your stories and your anecdotes. Don't abuse that platform by slagging off people that are doing the job now that you used to do. Well, use your platform for good.
Sorry to butt in, but to move on from the dinosaur bit, before we move on from the dinosaur and the rest of the Flintstones he knocks around with, Hackett started 3, or be influential in 3 referee education platforms. You are the ref online, and the keys to football. just have a look where they are now and decide if he's got any credibility in criticising referees and any form of education and training. Right, let's move on.
You just mentioned about Lee Mason, though, and just to kind of move on to managers who've had a bit of a go at the referees. I saw Wolverhampton Wanderers play against Burnley a few weeks back, and Nuno Espírito Santo made some absolutely bizarre comments, I felt, about Lee Mason again. And what I know it seems unfortunate about the Lee Mason that there's been embroiled in this as well, but it just, to me, you see, I think there's perfectly legitimate criticism for referees at times, because I do think that there are certain parts of the law that, you know, like, for example, one of the ones I saw last year that I thought was quite harsh and probably wouldn't be seeing it now was the little handball with Tottenham and Sheffield United, where it's the player was falling forward and the ball's being kicked at him and it's hit an arm as he's falling down, and that's an unfortunate one, and that's a law that a referee has his hands tied by, and the thing is, the referee might get criticism for that, but ultimately that's the law that they're simply just doing their job to apply. And I think that's a legitimate gripe at the law, and then maybe a little bit at the referee, but not so much at the referee, but more about the law. This was completely illegitimate, because he made comments to the effect of that Mason was not that Mason got every decision right, or got the majority of the decisions right, but the players were angry on the pitch when he was there. I just didn't understand what he was getting.
Wasn't the quote something like he lost control of the players, as if somehow they without a powerful referee, they have no self-control?
I know.
I think he was unhappy with his voice, is what I think. But I don't understand that, because he gave praise for his decision making and his accuracy of decisions, but said that he didn't control the game, but there was no mass confrontations in the game. There was nothing that would suggest that his match control was breached in any way, shape or form.
I wouldn't be surprised if Lee, I've got no inside information, if Lee had said something that shut him up and maybe pissed him off, or shut the captain up. So they'd all be all like that all game, saying, I guarantee that his players, Nuno's players, Wolves players, were saying far worse stuff to those match officials than Lee would have to them. But as soon as Lee come back and said something, that's outrageous, I'm going to report you. They'll never ever report their own players. Like you're seeing, was it Grealish? Everyone heard it on the telly, a big F off.
Yeah, to the assistant.
Everyone heard it. Not a peep from the FA about, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Not a peep. So when you get managers having a go and thinking they're so entitled, like Sean Dyche or whatever his name is, can be, I'm entitled to go into, I'm going to go into, that was a Freudian slip, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, well.
Go into the changing rooms. I'm entitled to go in. So what time do you want me in? I'm not sure if this happens in any other sports where the managers feel like they're all entitled to go in and question the referee. I'm just merely asking them what time I can come in. Well, I merely want to say to you, you shouldn't be allowed in. Shouldn't be allowed in. Live with it. We had Diego, our referee from Holland, who said just wouldn't happen. And when English referees go over to these Dutch tournaments, it's always the English referees going, I want to come in, have a word. They're all like, piss off. Just doesn't happen. I don't know why we've got this culture where football, even at grassroots level, I want to have a word at you after game. No, you can't. I'm going home. Where's this come from? I'm going to have a word. And even in the rules, right up to the top, you need to give the match officials half an hour before you come in. Just say you're not going in.
Yeah. Literally that. Yeah.
Do one. And what did he say? Then we'll have a go with you in the bar. Well, that's great, isn't it? That's perfect. That's the way to operate. Yeah. So my suggestion, and from a charity's point of view of a referee, is why do you need to go in and have a go? What makes you feel so frigging entitled at any level that you've got the right to go in and question a referee?
But the thing is, do you know how that conversation would go? It would be over in less than 30 seconds. He'll go in. The manager will say, "Why'd you send off my player?" The referee will say, "Because I saw it once with these set of eyes from one angle in real time, and it looked like a red card offence, so I showed the red card." the manager will say, I've seen it 10 times, slowed down from 5 different angles, and I don't think it was a red card. He said, I've seen it 10 times. And then the referee will say, well, we disagree there. I gave the decision. You didn't agree with it. What else do you want? You want to let me know that you didn't agree with my decision? Fine. Okay. Well, that's not really there's no discussion to be had. There's no discussion to be had.
I know. And then if you went back to them and said, but your number 7 scores an own goal. Well, did you have a go with him? Have you questioned him? Your number 9 missed the penalty. Look, people, I wrote a couple of notes down here. You get people like Mings for Villa doing the most ridiculous second yellow card to get sent off. Ridiculous. What you doing things. No one says a word. No one says a word. If those grounds were full, fans will be clapping him off.
Yeah.
A stupid referee gets a throwing monk. He gets absolutely pelted. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And then the first game back after that Burnley, after showing Dyche, after that game, his player missed this open goal in the first minute of the game, didn't he?
Yeah.
Not a jot.
This is the thing. Deflect. Absolve yourself of responsibility. Blame the soft target. Blame the referee. Because
wasn't he a really bad own goal? Was it West Brom?
West Brom just
unbelievable own goal. No one said a word. No one said he should be dropped. Should never be at this level. He's not good enough.
Well, this is the thing. Oh, that's the one that Nuno said. He said Lee Mason shouldn't be performing at this level. Despite him doing it for years.
I do think the fact that West Brom conceded another 4 goals and lost 5-0 might have meant that own goal was largely insignificant. Yeah,
but no one would go at them like they would.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, completely agree.
And everyone accepts it. You think that's what I want to do. Oh, hang on a minute. I don't think that player should be picked for the next 3 weeks. He's clearly not good enough.
Yeah. And when you're talking about Mings as well, he served his suspension. He's come straight back in. And that's the thing,
a ridiculous situation like that, second yellow.
I saw a situation in a game and a referee made a mistake that cost him the rest of his season. And that was obviously at professional level, professional referee. And I think that when you see that taking place, it's absolutely, there has to be a really sort of serious offence for that to happen, because it's got to be something like not being fit enough, or has it got to be something like a lack of law knowledge or something like that? But an honest mistake, the people in refereeing, good honest people in refereeing, understand that if you can make a mistake in a moment, that's a human thing, and I think that with technology, okay, that is going to be reduced slightly, but we're not all operating with technology. But more crucially as well, if the referee can still make a mistake, which means, as he did in the Burnley Leeds game that you're talking about, where Sean Dyche was unhappy, where it made that it means that the law can't be done, then that's something that you have to look at and say, okay, he's a I know who the referee was. He's in his first season in the Premier League. You look at the referee and you say, okay, he's made a mistake. It's had a really bad backlash. But that's something that character builds for him. That's a learning point. That's something that he'll watch it back and he'll go, I won't do that again. And it's something I keep talking about this all the time, because I had moments like that in my first season as a level 7. You look at it and you make mistakes when you're first starting out, doing adult football as well as what I'm talking about here, where you make an honest mistake and it's a howler really. And you've got to open yourself up to that and say, yeah, okay, I made a massive mistake. And those moments, though, they shape you, because they leave a painful indentation in you, which makes you go, I won't do that again. And I'm a massive advocate, and I don't know about you guys, I'm a massive advocate for basically dropping the bollock and making it be the thing that learns the most. If you had an unbelievable game and you got 90 marks or whatever you got, you're not going to learn a great deal. If you make a big mistake, you're going to learn a lot, in my opinion.
I think it's twofold, and I've always looked at this. Always develop your developments. Always develop what you don't do very well.
Yeah.
Equally, always remember what you're good at. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the bit people miss. People think, I need just to self-assess and look at what I've done wrong. Well, no, because some of the stuff that you do well, and you could always construct it or develop it in such a way which it helps your weaknesses It helps your developments. So it's, when you do self-assess at any level of football, always remind yourself what you're good at. Always, because if you're always knocking yourself, you'll always be starting at a lower level. Always remember how far you've come, whether you're a level 7 who is just starting off. You've come somewhere because you passed the exam. You've come somewhere because you had the guts to cross that white line and become one of us. You finished the game, you went back again the next week. These are all achievements, no matter what level you are. And if you are 7, you get promoted to 6, then you start again. Well done. Remember those times when, don't remember all the bad stuff. Remember what you achieved. Always remember what you achieved and what you want to go to. We talked, didn't we, earlier when we had the chat about tonight, was about your passion. And you say people, if you can find a passion that you can do very, very often, and it's out in the fresh air, and it's having all those skills, social skills, particularly at a time like this, what a wonderful place to be. What a great place to be, and that's your passion and that's your drive. So I do believe in self-analysis, and I do believe whatever that is. I don't believe in forms. I think forms are just there for tick boxes. Yeah. I've always said, as a coach, you self-assess to yourself and to me. I don't care whether you do that in a document. I don't care if you do it by an email. I don't care if you do it by a text message. I don't care if you do it by voice. I don't care, but do it. Just communicate with somebody. And when you are self-assessment, then talk to someone what you think, the reasons that you think like you do. So if you think I was crap because of X, Y, Z, ask someone, is that right to feel that way? Yeah. Because as you know, from the mental resilience side of it, one of the problems that I felt personally, and also talking to other people, is that you think you're the only one going through that. You think you're the only one that feels you're a bit of a knobhead, that you might not be good enough. Well, trust me, everybody from Clattenburg down to the first, lad or girl that just passed will always feel that way. And it's realising that we're all fallible, we're all normal. We all will feel, oh my God, we're crap today. And we all can feel elated when we have those, perfect scenario, which is 22 handshakes. We've always teamed for that. But one of the things I wanted to sort of come on to, lads, and what we were just talking about there, is that we talked about the second yellow with Mings, and we talked about Sean Dyche, and we've talked about Nuno, and we've talked about own goals, we've talked about sitters. I want to talk about something I don't think got enough coverage, being honest and open as a match official, is the mistakes, the obvious mistakes we made. And we've just been talking about not thinking we're good enough and in all the challenges that go ahead, and there's always a mistake around the corner. What went on with Anthony Taylor on that back pass?
Oh, where he gave the free kick outside?
Yeah, for the back pass to the keeper.
The area they picked, I don't know.
Yeah, we get to the bottom of that. Did Comical Ali talk about it on Ref Watch?
I've not seen any reaction apart from everyone saying, what's he done? Why has he done that? It's inexplicable.
I don't know what happens. Like, I'm not I'm gonna go at refs. I'm just wondering. That's a good example. This is what I mean about learning and developing. Yeah. This is a really good example to say to people, look, here's Anthony Taylor. Arguably one of the best referees we've got.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Arguably one of the best referees in Europe. Making such a fundamental mistake, not only on his own, but with 3 other people's and a VAR behind him. Yeah. That's the story. What went on there? So, what do you think went on there?
Well, it's one of those things where he mustn't have thought it was essential to have it on the exact blade of grass where the offence happened. Like, you can forgive that when it's an offside down by the corner flag. But the players have moved to the free kick outside the box to gain an advantage. Yeah. Because if it's obviously an indirect free kick, they're going to have some sort of ceremonial layoff and shot. They increase their chances by moving away from the goal in and around that area. So I think I can't explain it away. He should have been more, and so should the entire team of officials, been more on top of actually those are the types of free kicks that do need to be on the exact blade of grass where the offence occurred.
Particularly, and it's we know what's really interesting about that, and we've said before we want to put more leanings into what we talk about for grassroots level. I'm going to throw something at you two here. So if you know this, then we've talked about it before. Tell me to shut up. Do you know when you do your 9.15 meter wall?
Yes.
10 yards in the old school, and you pace your wall out, and it's near the penalty area. What do you do when the 10 yards is right on the white line of the penalty area?
Oh, tell them to line up behind the white line. Use that white line as your reference point.
So if you count out your 10 yards, free kicks there, balls down, you march out your 10 yards.
Yeah.
And your 10 yards is actually on the white line.
Yeah.
What you do?
Well, that's your reference point. Behind that line, lads.
So you put the wall on the white line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll guarantee, because we haven't talked about this then. Oh, fuck, we've gone. You still there?
Still there. All good.
Sorry, for some reason you went then. Sorry for my language. So now we have a wall lined up. Right, we have a wall lined up.
Yeah.
Right, actually on the white line of the penalty area.
Okay.
So the shot comes in.
Yeah.
And it hits one of the people in the wall. The hand. Clear handball. What are you giving?
Penalty.
Penalty kick, yeah.
And now you're going to try and sell that to those players.
Well, yeah.
Are they going to say it's in? Oh, hang on.
Yeah. Of course they're going to say, "Oh, I was outside the area."
Yeah,
of course they're going to say that.
So here's the learning. Go
on.
When I was coaching for the FA level 3, we were out of training grounds. I think it was West Brom actually. Level 3. It was a first year referee. Actually, he was one of the older ones. I think he was about 45, 46. First year level 3. Great. Absolutely loved the fact that lads that age are getting to that level of football. That was wonderful. He pitches out the wall, and it's right on the penalty line, the mark of the penalty area, and he brings them forward. He brings them forward and then moves the ball back a little bit, and no one noticed. No one said a word. And I thought, what did Hammy know? Love that. So I said to him after the game, I said, "Hey mate," I said, talking about other stuff. He was really, really good man manager, naturally gifted communicator. I said, "But listen, I want you to talk me through. Did you bring the wall forward because it was right on the line and therefore you might have a problem selling handball lift?" He went, "No, I just did it because it was in the wrong place and the player moved the ball." I said, I thought you did it because
he was avoiding a potential.
As I'm talking to him, I'm going, "Oh my God, I've just stumbled on something." Never put a wall on the line of the penalty area because you're going to cause yourself trouble, aren't you?
Potentially.
Never do it. I know there might be people out there saying, oh, excuse me, it's 9.15, it's 10 yards. No. Have a word with yourself. Your legs do the 10 yards. No one gets the tape measure out. So when you're managing a ball in those situations, try not to put it right on the white line. Either have it significantly in or significantly out.
Yeah.
Don't have it on. So you know the restart's going to be either a penalty if it's handball or a free kick outside it. You see what I mean? So like in the fact of learning, that's the sort of thing I was saying. So I don't know what went through Anthony Taylor's head because it was really close to it. I don't know what went in his head because he just can't sell those decisions. So that's a good learning about using the field of play to sell decisions. Try not to have all the purists out there. Shoot me down if you want. I don't care. Try to manage your own success.
Yeah.
Never, ever pace a wall out and it's going to land. When you get to 8, if you think, oh my God, it's going to be on the 18-yard box, go inside or go out. Preferably come out, because if you do have a handball, it's only a free kick and not a penalty in it. Just help yourself.
I think that it's interesting, though. We have to point out, when we talk about from a psychological perspective here, and I love this one, we have to point out that the average number of decisions made in a 90-minute game is between 300 and 350, and that's one of them. And the other thing which I think is interesting as well is 50 of those, only 50 of those are objective. So the others are all subjective. And I suppose...
What do you mean, mate? For people who might not understand that. Do you mean like one or it's definitely out or it's definitely in?
Yeah.
Or it's definitely a free kick or... Okay.
Yeah. And I think obviously, like, for example, a subjective decision, just to be clear about what we're talking about, is whether the ball's gone over the byline or not, where all of the ball's gone over the line or all the balls stayed.
It's binary. It's yes or no, isn't it? Yes or no.
Yeah. Whereas a penalty, foul in a penalty area may be subjective. So I might think it's a penalty, you might not. So it's just things like that I think the majority of the decisions that we are making are ones of that nature, where I may think it's a foul and you may not. And I think that's something that probably you've got to think about at the Premier League level, where obviously we just talked about fitness and the speed and things, everything happening. For us on the park when we're doing the dog and duck against the Red Lion, it's not happening at the pace that Manchester City against Chelsea is. And I think that that's where you've got to understand the sharpness, not just the sharpness of physically, but the sharpness of mind as well to do all those things and to have all those things. And I think, I think Anthony Taylor and Michael Oliver are having a really good battle to see who can be the number one official. And what I think it's wonderful is we've got two elite FIFA referees fighting for that shirt. Maybe there'll be two shirts for the Euros this summer. Hopefully it'll be this summer. And it'll be great to see if there's only one who gets it. But if we can have two representatives like we did at the last European Championships in 2016, it would be wonderful again for British refereeing, particularly for English refereeing, particularly after not having had a representative at the last World Cup.
Well, I think I want to. I'm going to raise you in Oliver. I'm going to take your Oliver and Taylor, and I'm going to raise you as Sian Massey.
Yeah,
wouldn't it be absolutely lovely, brilliant, forward thinking, and absolutely right to do so? To have Sian Massey to go to a World Cup, a men's World Cup.
Yeah.
Why not? She's a FIFA lino.
Yeah.
Why not? Well, it gets. How brilliant would that be? I know we talk about all these, the women's pathway and women FIFA referees. Listen, we've had world success with Babiana. We've had world success with Stephanie. Let's have we got semi-world success with Sian with regards to she's done Champions League and stuff like that. Let's get her to a World Cup.
I think the only thing I think is which I mentioned obviously before we had the meeting here to record this, when we had a meeting earlier today, I should say, was I think when you look at it, I'm talking about Danny Makelele, the Dutch FIFA referee, and I'm thinking about a terrible joke that Martin made, but I'm also thinking about the fact that
three people in it. Danny Mac and Lele. Wow. Yeah. Three people.
We would have got two. They've got Danny Mac and
No, but on a serious note,
sorry.
Danny from Holland is doing the Club World Cup, and I believe that they're doing that competition with both genders as part of the refereeing team, and the thing is, I am fully supportive of Sian, because I actually think Sian on her own has been probably over the last two seasons been the best assistant in the Premier League. But what I want to say is that I feel that for Danny, he works in a regular team in the Eredivisie in Holland and in the Champions League, and they all work together as a three generally, and somebody's having to miss out in that team to accommodate a new member, a female referee who's got no issues with the capability. But what we're talking about is the chemistry of the team, the trust that's built up over hundreds of games that they've done together. And I think the same with Anthony Taylor. If you put Sian in his team, then Adam Nunn or Gary Bezic would have to miss out, and they go everywhere together and they do everything together, and they've got that implicit trust. And the same goes with Michael Oliver, and obviously he's got his assistants. And for Sian, on the flip side, she's got trust in Chris Kavanagh, who she works with more often than not, and obviously Daniel Cook as well, who she works with more often than not, and they work together in a team of three. So is she going to have that same level of trust with Anthony Taylor? I think it works both ways, and I think it's a really, really important thing to consider. Not only the fact that somebody's working hard and might miss out of being part of the team that they're regularly in, but also that one person can come in and might not have the same level of team chemistry, which when you go to a major tournament, you want your best buddies alongside you.
As those people in Holland that work with Danny as a team, are they all FIFA linos?
Yeah, they go everywhere together.
That level of lino.
In a three, they go everywhere. Champions League, in a three.
It's interesting because sometimes, do you want the best team or do you want the best individuals? Question to ask, innit? Do you want the best?
It's a perfectly legitimate question, yeah.
And I think that could be going on, and I think what we are seeing, without a shadow of a doubt, that some of the best officials in the world happen to be females.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with that? Absolutely, what's wrong with that? If you remember, I looked at the tweet. I'll get it up. And do you remember ages ago I said one of the baffling? I said it on Twitter. One of the baffling decisions that we can't seem to understand is why Sian Massey is not doing men's world class games. Why? He's consistently been one of our best linos, but other people are going to World Cups. Other people are going directly into Champions Leagues. You know, you're getting these people that you mentioned, aren't anywhere near as experienced as here in the Premier League, but they're getting big Champions League games. They're getting big. What's all that about? If they're going to be, and this is what I don't quite get about England's having a separate pathway for women. When we've proven we can bring some of the best officials through the normal system, of that, in inverted commas, and have some of the best match officials in the world. We've done it right back to, we had it with Wendy Toms all those years ago, 26 years ago.
Yeah.
What have we
ago
done?
now.
Still got the same amount.
Well, that's it. Quarter of a century, and things
still
are really the same as they were back then.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Don't forget Natalie Walker. There's a 2A back then when Wendy was on, same level, conference ref used to be called, panel ref. So when people start going on about how much the women's games come forward, it hasn't. It's only come forward in the last couple of years because you've thrown loads of money at it. And we happen to have a Women's Premier League, which is on telly, and money's getting put behind it. Those questions have never been asked. What happens from Wendy Toms to Sian Massey and Natalie Walker? Natalie Walker, isn't it? And Natalie Aspinall.
Natalie Aspinall, yeah. He was on Select Group 2 Assistant Championship now, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a two-way referee now. We've stayed still. With women.
I think it's because the powers that be are responsive. They will respond to things after they've happened rather than have the foresight to say, well, if we take action now, it will pay dividends in 3 or 5 years or however long it takes. There's a real reluctance to kind of say, let's pioneer this way of doing things and have other countries look at the way we're doing it and want to emulate us, and not the other way around as it seems to be. And one of the things that kind of touches home with especially is the like MOAS. Like, if you're not a level 4 referee or high, you'll have probably no idea what MOAS is. And it's how you get your fixtures through at that level and how you report back and stuff like that. But why isn't there a universal online system where referees can get their fixtures, they can submit their discipline reports, they could even potentially get paid in a cashless way by teams paying into something like that? That should be something that was in place before COVID was even a blip on the radar, because it was, you know, at that point it's 2019, but we're still operating in the exact same way as we did when I first qualified as a referee. Paper team sheets, cash in envelopes at the end of the games, up until very recently, and I'm talking within the last 5, 6, 7 years, still potentially had the facility to do a handwritten report and post it into the CFA. It's only very recently that things have gone completely digital, and it was something that I was pushing for when I first got on board with the referee forum in 2004 and 5, saying things like social media should be used as a platform to push out messages and information and train your referees. If you had a system that every referee had to be a part of digitally, you could roll out training at the touch of a button. It would literally be, watch this video, all referees at the start of a season, here's a recap of the laws of the game and how they're changing and how you need to implement them, rather than have what we do have, which is the IFAB will release the new laws of the game at the beginning of the season, and it's down to the individual referees to decide, well, do I want to learn? Do I want to sit down and study these new rules and put them into practice? Maybe go to a county training session, whatever they're putting on. It's all voluntary. Or do I want to carry on refereeing in the exact same way I have done for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And that again breeds a kind of inconsistency between referees at a certain level. It seems like a missed opportunity.
I think there's so many good things, though, that you could do with a platform like that. It's not just about, obviously, the education side, which I think is one wonderful aspect. But I think another wonderful aspect is, obviously, where my concern lies is with well-being, you know. And you can monitor how an official's feeling and what they feel about the game and their level of confidence and how they feel that they've been treated by the club officials, by the sort of the playing staff, you know, and all of those things are really, really important considerations to put in place, because I think it gives the referee development officer, the referee manager, an opportunity to see who might need the phone picking up. To look at that and think, well, actually, we've got Charlie here, and he's slid down my table in terms of well-being and where in the way he's ranked himself over the last couple of weeks. I'm just going to pick up the phone to him, and I'm going to see how he's doing, and give them that support as a referee development officer, but also to be able to, I don't know whether it would be the referee development officer feeding into other people within the county football association or whatever it might be. But that kind of software would also allow for clubs who are consistently, sort of having acts of misconduct, particularly against officials. It would allow them to be identified, because if 4 or 5 referees week after week after week are doing this team, and this team are getting marked for their conduct, in a low level, then it means that the county FA knows that they've got to make an intervention, and it'll come to light a lot easier as well, a lot quicker, and it means that you can nip it in the bud. Because if we're talking about referee abuse, which obviously we've talked about on here, and in particular with Tom Webb, when Dr. Tom Webb came on, if we're talking about referee abuse and cutting out referee abuse, there's nothing better, in my opinion, than having a platform like that. I think everybody knows that I've got a partnership with Ref Live, who do some of that stuff with their software, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and it matches with the values and the ethos of myself personally and the third team. And I'm sure it's shared by yourselves in terms of wanting to cut these things out. And so I'm all in support for almost creating as well. Look, if it takes 2 or 3 platforms, and it takes a platform like Ref Live, and it takes a platform like Moes to do a couple of different things, then that's so be it. That's what it has to be. But it's about actually getting these things in place so that we can support referees in the best way possible, and referees can become a priority, and we can have a positive contribution to the game.
No, I'm with you on all that, but I want to go back a bit, if I may, because we're on a bit of a run. I want to go back to what we said about women, the women match officials, and because it's important to me, because obviously I've known Janie Frampton for such a long time. Mm-hmm. And when you were thinking about, when we talked about women, Bibiana Steinhaus, she just retired, Bibiana Steinhaus from the Bundesliga. That's a wonderful career. She's 41.
Yeah.
Right. So when we had Wendy Toms on the Premier League, that was 1999. So she would have been about 15. So Bibiana Steinhaus was around about 15 when we had Wendy Toms on the Premier League, and we had Janie Frampton, and we had Amy Fain. She was called Amy Rayner then. We had a game on the panel, the old conference, with 3 all-female match officials, round about 1999. Now here we are, 20-odd years later, from when those people are at that level, and we have exactly the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's not really been matched, has it?
No. How did we have Stephanie coming through, Bibiana Steinhaus coming through, and we stood still, and yet we're the ones that were saying, "Oh, we're the front runners." We're not. Let's get real. We're not. In the women's game,
it was our Concord moment, wasn't it? Concord had its last flight, and we've regressed since then in terms of how fast we can get to New York.
And that needs to be asked. All right, we got Joe Stimson and people like that, leading the women's football. Joe Simpson never ever got to that level of football as a referee. So Wendy Toms is a coach. So obviously Wendy Toms is in the food chain of women's football. Wendy Toms is nowhere near the pecking order of someone like Joe Stimson. And Wendy Toms been there, done it, and been back again. And I just think we start looking at what we're offering, what we're delivering. It'd be really, 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 really going to bring on our women's game. When now we're completing a pathway where we've got female women FIFA referees who really are the equivalent to a 2A and a level 3.
The one thing I will say, Martin, is I don't necessarily subscribe to that need to have been at the absolute pinnacle to be the best coach of any level of refereeing, whether it be a technical skill or a mental skill or whatever it might be. I think that, you look at, if we want to talk about football, we talk about football managers, we'll look at the likes of Jose Mourinho, who's never kicked a ball a professional level, it's sort of going out and being one of the top coaches in world football. And I think that it's about finding the right people who can help, but I think that it's about that mindset as well to want to push these people on. I think there's some wonderful coaches who have got a great manner about them, they think very, very well, and they're so forward thinking, and maybe that for physical reasons or whatever technical reasons they couldn't referee themselves, but they provide all the tools to set these people away and to get them into a good moment and to give them as much counsel and support. Obviously you've touched on many episodes we've done on here about your coaching that you do for match officials, and I think that one of the things that's actually probably I've learned from being connected with you and working with you a lot is that it's the little things. It's the little things that we talk about that I take into my refereeing. The things like when you're doing a warm-up, having a look at what foot the keeper kicks with. Little things like that are the little bits of genius really for me, that you just take them and you just think, and I think that it's about those things that if we can get that, and the mindset and the whole, I think it's a pedagogy, isn't it? They call it in a coaching, where you've got that, that idea of how you want to coach and how you want to educate people. I think that it's about finding the best people who have got that mindset for coaching, and because Newcastle fan again, talk about this, Alan Shearer. He didn't do a good job as a manager in Newcastle, did he? They got relegated. So, but he, absolutely wonderful. In the history of England, you wouldn't find a better centre forward. No. So I just think that it's about actually having that ability to look and see who've got the right sort of skill set for coaching.
No, I get that, mate. I get that.
If we can get that into women's football, then that's what's going to push us.
And I get that, and I'm really happy that you corrected me on that in regards to Joe Stimson has never been there and done it. Yeah. Only got to level 4, did 1 or 2 seasons maximum at it. But what I was getting at, I've always said you don't have to be a dog to be a vet. I've always said that. Just be a great vet. So you'll never have anyone advocating, because they've been there. Look at Hackett's, good example, been there, done it. Absolute dinosaur. What I was getting at with the Joe and the Wendy thing is, we should have had a Wendy in Joe's position years ago. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. In those times, where's Wendy been from the time of her stopping as a Premier League assistant referee doing a cup final at Wembley, the League Cup final, I think it was called the Milk Cup with Alan Wilkie. She was the Sian Massey, probably before Sian Massey was even born. But why haven't we had her in the position where Joe Stimson is now? Why?
Well, what was her post-official?
It wasn't. She never did much. I think she did a bit of an assessment. She might have done something in UEFA, very little. I just don't know what went on. But I don't know what my point was. What my point, because I don't want people to think that I'm a believer in you've got to be there and do it. Because I'm the absolute paradoxical argument to that. You don't have to be a dog to be a vet. What I'm saying is, why didn't we have someone like Wendy Toms, Amy Rayner, people like that? We had Janie Frampton doing a bit for the FA, leading all the training, but there wasn't much. She wanted to take the women's game to where it was now. 10 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have the level of football we got now with the great stuff that the women's league's doing, Super League and all that. Brilliant. I'm not knocking any of that. What I'm knocking is, people who are in place now were still in place when Wendy could have had a position developing women's football, and they chose not to.
Yeah, well, that's my point about the lack of foresight in the powers that be, because they saw at the time, guaranteed 10 years ago, that 3 blokes would have been having the same conversation that us 3 are having right now, in the terms of, right, we've got some amazing female officials, they're in some great places, they've achieved some great things. Where's the next generation coming from? And the powers that be have gone, fuck it. This system has generated them. It can generate some more. Why change it?
I think we all know, as the 3 of us, that there is a wonderful. Well, yeah, I think we're quite happy. There's a wonderful RDO out there who's a current official within the Football League, and we all know who we're talking about. And where I would agree with you there, Martin, is that we can see that somebody who's active at the time, who's the trailblazer in the moment, like Wendy you're talking about there, if she'd been in charge of women's refereeing then at that time, then that may have allowed what Joe now does to be management of maybe even a professional pool of female officials, you know. So I think that it's that probably maybe even a little bit of a disappointment that you don't get that, and particularly for young girls who are getting into refereeing. I mean, obviously I'm running the third team, and we have a lot of girls engaged with our content on the mailing list and reading it and thinking it's great. And obviously, you know, from obviously the blogs that I do, I include a lot of the female officials on as the cover stars of the blog, because I think it's really, really important that we show how visible they are. And you know, there was one last week, you know, in the one I put out last week, it was a female FIFA official from Poland, assistant referee. And I just think it's great that we could have that, because if Wendy had been in at that time, it's also about the infrastructure that you've got around you to do these things. And I think that could have been built as well, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons why Joe's got a really clear run at it now, is that the infrastructure's there. There's you know, you talked about it, the WSL and all the finance that brings in. New television deal coming soon, I believe. You know, from hearing Joe last month, Joe was speaking last month about new television deal. Barclays, I believe, sponsor the league. All this money that's being pumped in now gives her the infrastructure and gives her a good run at getting the standard of officiating up, because
hopefully that happen. A lot of the money that goes into TV doesn't go to referee education.
Yeah,
for example, or the PGMOL has done it, but you know, why aren't the PGMOL taking over that league? Why have we got the PGMOL doing a training at the top level of men, but we've got the separate thing for women, which is a double role? You know, straight away, there's a huge problem. If I was an organisation saying, well, how come we got the PGMOL, which is basically a quango of the Football League, the Premier League, the FA, running all that side of it, but we've got an individual in a team of a couple in the referees department in Wembley? What? All those questions, it's a clear earthquake about to happen. Well, absolutely 100%. Who's going to win that one? And then there's a backward step. Now, my argument is this: Sian Massey's come through, Natty Asamoah's come through, you know, Lisa Ben's come through, Lisa Rashid's come through. All top draw, and if I missed any, apologise. Some great ones coming through. Well, why is that gap happened? Why has someone never got to a point to question a Wendy Toms to a Sian Massey? Why has no one ever said, where are we? We had it with Baines referees. So when you look at what's really, really happens in referee development, as we back to our whole packers, we haven't delivered on Baines referees. We're only starting to do it now. And we never delivered on women referees when we did that. Don't forget, at the same time we had Wendy, we had Uriah Rennie.
Yeah, and obviously we're talking about Sam Ellis, the first man with a whistle in his hand.
No one questions it. We started talking about it when we were created, because it needs to be something. You couldn't talk about it because the people in power then, the people in power now, haven't developed it. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not sure the heart.
Well, they've chosen not to. They've chosen not to.
I don't think heart is. I think the attitude, because the women's league was doing so well, they had to have some form of women development. You had people like, it was Baroness Sue Campbell. It's Dame Sue Campbell now, I believe. Brilliant advocate for women's sport and football. Wonderful woman. I bet she's the one that's been pushing it. Mm-hmm. Not anyone from the men's side. Absolutely not. And rightly so. And rightly so. And so I think, going back to the comments about Wendy and Joe, wasn't the fact of what Joe's achieved and what Wendy's achieved. Why wasn't Wendy in a place where Joe is a few years back? Why? And that's what I believe where we've missed out on.
I think the way that it should be looked at, though, and what it should have been looked at the time, at the turn of the millennium, which is obviously when you're talking about, is people should have looked at it and went, you know, Christ, how good is Wendy? You know, we must be missing a few talented female officials with a skill set to do this, who could be wonderful officials. And even now, people should be looking at Sian and going, wow, here's Sian. She's a wonderful ambassador for women in officiating. She's been obviously rewarded by the Queen for that. I think she got an MBE. And you know, wonderful services that she's provided. And people must be looking at her thinking, you know, how many other Sian Masseys are there out there that haven't realised their potential, you know, because of the as I said, the infrastructure and all the framework that
haven't been given the opportunity rather than not realising the potential.
Well, this is it. Yeah,
just sit it all in the same pool. Why is it with the Baines referees, which has moved on greatly over the last 18 months maximum? Women's football moved on greatly, 18 months maximum.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say 2 years?
Well, I would say that I saw. I think it was Joel Mannix. I believe he's a London referee, a London-based referee. Anyway,
good lad.
Yeah, he was saying. I think he did an interview with CNN. It was. I think is it Darren Lewis. I think with CNN, saying basically he felt that level 3 was what he described as the black man's graveyard. Level 3.
How have the people who run refereeing in this country got away with that? How have accountability? How have they got away with that massive gap where we had world-class Bain referee, world-class
Champions League games, FIFA
referee, and then we're only just starting again now? I don't understand why anyone talk about referees being accountable. Why haven't they justified that? Where's that been? We didn't need a women's league to develop women referees. We proved that with Amy, with Janie, with Wendy. We proved it. So that's not the answer to the question. Can't sit around and say, it's because we never had the TV deals, because we didn't have them then. But we had brilliant referees coming through who were female. It's never been sort of questioned, and it does frustrate me. And I do wish Joe the best, and Sue Campbell, all the people involved in the development. But Lucy Oliver, another brilliant educator up your way, magnificent. Some brilliant.
Does absolutely fantastic work with Newcastle United Foundation as well, with their Be a Game Changer program for mental health.
They should be pretty normal, not people we pick out because there's not many of them. Well, and the missed opportunity was back in 1999, and I just think one day someone just finds out really what the reason was, because I just shake my head at it. But listen, we've good comeback blog this has been. We've gone all over the place, bit longer than we would normally do, but we've got a lot of catching up to do with people in lockdown. But I wouldn't mind wrapping up and saying I hope everyone's had a wonderful, wonderful festive season, Christmas and New Year. I really hope that we have a successful coming year with regards that this is the last of the lockdown. This is the last of the worry, concern, anxiety of a pandemic. And I just hope that we all move forward together and that football does come back a better game.
Absolutely. Hear.
Yeah, completely concur. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So let's tune in soon for the next episode of Final Whistle. And it's lovely to see you two boys particularly. And let's move on to a more regular blog. All the best, lads.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.